Namaste, my dear friends. Well, I want to welcome you back on our channel, and I will today point out an interesting topic connected with Amanita Muscaria, thanks to a comment from one of our subscribers, from John. He shared, Namaste, thanks for another great informative video. For all of my journeys with Amanita considered of both caps and stems, I never considered that the stems or stalks was less potent than the cap it held high. My journeys were quite intense. Now in 2025, many regard the stems as garbage or of no usefulness. My question is, are there stems useful component of a true Amanita experience? So this is a very good question because it unites multiple kind of levels of understanding better what is Amanita, and at the same time, I think I'll share with you some even more details as right now we have autumn coming, and the season of Amanita Muscaria is up, and they already are blooming in many parts of the world. So may this information also be an extra tool for you to know how best of all to gather them. So, John, first of all, are the stems of use? First of all, from a perspective of the physical components, then the stems, they hold about 20% of the strength that holds the cap. In other words, when you're gathering the mushroom, the stems, they have 20% of strength. And this is the reason, for example, when I'm personally gathering Amanita and I find a mushroom, for example, the first Amanita in my gathering now, I would take the cap, put it into my basket, and I would take that stem, and I would literally give my deep gratitude to Amanita and just enjoyably eat the fresh stem. And in my gathering, I would eat 1, 2, sometimes even 3 stems, but 1, 2 are usually enough, and you already get a very good boost of energy and a very good flow of consciousness. And you start to connect with Amanita, and you start to find many, many more. So remember, 20% of the strength of the cap. This is what the stems have. What you can do with stems. So often I would gather them together with the fresh Amanita, and what I would do with them, there are a couple of options. If I simply want to eat, I would literally gather them, then come back home. I could, one thing, if you want to lower down the active, let's say, components, you can boil them, and part of the water you can put away. It is partly healing water, and then the stem itself, then you can just fry it. And if you fry Amanita, and especially the stems with cow butter, salt and pepper, it almost tastes like kind of fried cheese, or maybe like fried chicken with cheese. So it has a very enjoyable taste. So this is from a practical chemical aspect. If we look at it from another angle, does the stem play a role in Amanita journey? Well, if you will consume, of course, one whole mushroom, it's all interconnected, and of course that has its own interesting benefits from an energetical point, as you definitely will resonate with that mushroom, that specific Amanita. But on the other hand, when we're going for a deep journey, the most important is your consciousness, your request, and the connection with the spirit of Amanita. So these things, they even matter more. Amanita by itself, it doesn't matter if you only eat the cap and you don't use the stems. So also, one thing what I have done, I have gathered also stems, I dried them, and then afterwards I just use them also like in a microdosing way. But you can just take them, chew them, or if you want, again, you can use them partly in cooking. Of course, not a lot, but you use them, it's healing, it's tasty, and it blends in quite nicely. So this is a little bit on the stems. So for now, a little bit on the gathering. So when I'm going for the hunt of Amanita Muscaria, you have to know that it usually grows in places where you have pine trees or birch trees. It likes this kind of Nordic weather. So eventually, if you're in Europe, it's quite easy to find this weather. If you're in Asia, you'll have to go to the mountainside, and there you will find them. And then when you're starting to search for them, I told you one of my traditions what I do. When I find my first Amanita, I greet it from my deep heart. I give it to it gratitude to take the cap, and I take the stem and make a request. Amanita, guide me, help me to find more, help me to connect, and may this gathering of the harvest would bring a lot of benefit, happiness, healing, love, and joy to everyone. And by making this request and eating the stem, I connect with Amanita, and Amanita starts to come even more and more and more. So how is it better to gather it? So once you find Amanita, if you decide to gather the stems, then you cut at the bottom and take the whole mushroom. So they wouldn't break very often. I would recommend to put stems aside and put the caps aside, because when you put the caps just by themselves, they have a less percentage that they can break. And you can have whole pieces of the cap, which looks very beautiful in my opinion. Secondly, an interesting thing, when you're gathering, I recommend don't gather in a plastic bag because it doesn't get air. But you know, the ancient times, all the baskets for mushrooms were usually made from wood, but that eventually would have holes and it would give the ventilation. As ventilation and air, it's super important for the mushrooms. They have a high level of humidity, and if you put them in a plastic bag, within even 4, 5, 6 hours, certain things on parts of the mushroom can start to spoil. As you know, mushrooms, they can spoil very quickly if you put them not in the right environment, and putting them in a plastic bag is one of them. So best of all, if you know you go for a mushroom gathering, take for yourself a wooden or something that would be fixed, that you could put on the bottom, the caps, and then the caps you can put one on the top while you're gathering. So we gathered 1, 2, 5, 10, 20, 30 kilos of red Amanita. What do we need to do now? So there are multiple options depending, do you have a dehydrator or you don't? First of all, if you don't have a dehydrator, how did people in the ancient times dry Amanita? Well, they simply put them on a string. So you take a needle, you take a string, and you just go through the mushroom, and then you put on the string in your house, best of all in a, let's say, over the window or close to the window without direct sunlight, but that the air would be going and flowing. As when you dry mushrooms, it's important that the air would blow, then they dry. And you keep them in your room, house for 3-4 days, and usually that's enough for them to dry up. That's one way. Second way, I'll say here, let's go for dehydrator. So in dehydrator, it's very easy. You literally just a little bit clean the caps. You can clean them from the sand or something, and then you put them there piece by piece, cap by cap. And thanks to that, you get the opportunity to put them and to wait for about, let's say, 20 to 24 hours. The temperature you can use around 35, 40 degrees. It's usually enough. They become, once they're ready, they become very crispy. You can literally take them like a chips and they will even almost make the sound. It's one of the ways to dehydrate at the temperature of 35, 40. Another option is to dehydrate them at the temperature of 75, 80 degrees. So this temperature is higher, but as our practice has shown, it actually kind of brings the potency of the Amanita even more stronger out. You would think that drying them in the temperature under around 36 degrees would be better, but our practice has shown that drying them around 75 and 80 even makes them stronger. As you know, when you dry Amanita, the botanic acid, it transforms partly into muscimol. So the drying process can have an impact how much you can increase the potency of those Amanitas that you already have by you. So this is another interesting fact and thing for you. very often I'm being asked, can you dry Amanita in an oven? And I personally say that it's not a good idea because many people spoil and destroy their Amanita. To that, better put them on a string. If you want, you can also cut the mushroom when you're putting on the string, so the pieces would be smaller, and you can make just put multiple strings where it will be drying. But drying Amanita like this in an oven, in many cases, people just destroy the mushroom. Why? Because if you put it in an oven, again, it's very important then to have an oven that is um, that has like metal sticks, and it's not totally piece of one metal, so that eventually like a small net or something, that eventually that the air inside of the oven can go through the mushroom. Because if you put them simply where there's no air coming from the bottom, then they will like flat down, they will burn inside of the moisture, it will start to boil inside of the mushroom, and of course it will destroy the structure of the mushroom and its healing components. Part of them will remain, but part of them will be destroyed, and the taste of Amanita changes, and blah, blah, blah. So very important, if you decide to dry it in an oven, the same principle, have their air running. If you cannot do that, best of all, put them on the strings and into a place where there's air, but in darkness. No direct sunlight. Direct sunlight destroys many things that are connected with nature. So that's why, in many cases, healing herbs and mushrooms, it's best of all to dry them in dark places without direct sunlight. Then you're going to have more healing components inside remaining, as the sun has the capacity of destroying elements. So this is another interesting fact for you. So once you have gathered and you have dried your Amanita, how to best to preserve it for a long run? So one of the ways we do sometimes freeze drying. We do put them, eventually take out all the extra humidity, and this allows for the mushroom to remain even better and taste even smoother and have a higher potency. If you don't have this opportunity, simply put your Amanita into a bag, put it into that no air would go inside, and put them in a dry, dark place. So, or you can also put them in a dark place as your freezer. So as my practice shows, actually the most safest way is to keep it in a freezer, as even though if you leave it out in a dark place, sometimes something happens. For example, if I live here in Asia, the humidity here is huge. Say the warmth is also very high. So as a result, one of my bags of Amanita, even though it was zipped, it was in a dark place and nothing was going inside, still the Amanita got its own fermentation. So eventually the strength and the quality has lowered down because of the high temperature here in Asia. So for this reason, if you live in the north, you usually don't have such an issue, but if you have warm days, and just generally just better keep them in a freezer, in a zip bag, in a dark place, without direct sunlight, without any heat. This, of course, will help to preserve it best of all. So, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments below. Let me know what was the biggest Amanita that you have found, or what was your biggest gathering of Amanita in one time. I would love to hear your stories, and all of us would like to hear what you find. If you have pictures also, please. And and if you have questions, just also drop them there. In the meanwhile, like, subscribe, or join our Amanita community, where from time to time I am making Zoom calls. And I'm very happy that you watched this video until the end. So I hope this information was helpful to you and will assist you to gather your own perfect batch of Amanita for the year ahead. Okay? Much love, in touch, and namaste. See you next time.